Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Kingdom of Rizia. So, in the last episode, we had our little secret congregation commencement coronation thing in the dark, shady underground of the church in Plavo. I believe that was where it was at. But yeah, we also got a vision of the future, which may or may not happen, and we will be hopefully trying to avoid whatever happens in the future that is bad. Sure. Don't really know what to make of that. It did kind of imply some things, possibly our daughter possibly getting with someone. Did imply that, of course, they would be fighting with the families. There would be war, chaos, death, destruction, the apocalypse, etc., etc. But hopefully we can avoid all those things. I also did learn from the comments that apparently there is actually romance in this. So yeah, that's the thing. So who knows? Maybe we can find someone to marry, and yeah, that'll be a thing. Hopefully, it won't turn into a Peter situation. We all know how that turned out. But yeah, let's go ahead and continue on. I see that we have a briefing on the current security situation. We'll look at that in a second. We have the Ramos Taurus University that's under construction. We also had a little news briefing. I actually accidentally clicked on this while I was trying to go ahead and look at the, get everything set up for the video. But let's see. Royal consecration ceremony reaffirms monarchy, religion, unity. Religion's role in the affairs of state has been upheld through King Ramesses partaking in the consecration of the king. Hosted by the Ark Sanctuary of Plavo, the secret ceremony was presided over by Grand Wiseman and Royal Councilman Saul Ignatius. It brings me joy to announce that His Majesty, the King, has reaffirmed his commitment to the Ruhistic faith, said Wiseman Ignatius. Not only does our crowned head embody the spirit of the Rizian people, but of the Lord Almighty. May his long reign be a beacon to the faithless and shining light to those who proudly devote themselves to the one true God. We at the Herald believe that the harmonious collaboration between the church and state can yield numerous benefits, ultimately contributing to a more compassionate, inclusive, and prosperous society. We eagerly await what the fruits of this partnership will continue to bring. Now, again, I wonder how much I can really rely on this paper because it is state news, so it's only going to say great things. Anywho, let's see. Gomlin demands more say in the strait. Gomlin has formally requested an expansion of its role in the oversight of strategic maritime routes, including the Gomrish Sea, the Gulf of Gomlin, and the North Rican Sea paths. The demand comes amidst the existing control exercise by a CSP consortium, which holds veto powers alongside Vogsland and United Contana, and AN observers who attempt to maintain neutrality in maritime traffic. Gomlin's argument for a stronger presence and decision making stems from its geographical significance and the nation's strategic interest in the region. This move could potentially shift the balance of power and control over these crucial maritime passages. Alliance of Nations. Oh, okay. The not United Nations. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the briefing on the current security situation. Royal False Foundry, False Dator. On the way back from Plavo Ark Sanctuary, I met my council in the city of False Dator for a briefing on our security and military situation. The so-called Forge of Rizia was famous for its numerous foundries and factories in which iron from the nearby hills was transformed into rifles and handguns. Largest of them all was the Royal False Foundry, responsible for supplying the Rizian police and military. The red brick complex towered at the end of the King's Avenue, False Dator's main road. My council and I were given a tour of the facilities before settling around the table in the foundry's great hall. Murals on the walls around us depicted the city's history as an industrial center. As Duchess of the province and my war security counselor, Lucida sat at the head of the table. She nodded at the rest of us. Your Majesty, Your Highness, my esteemed fellow counselors. I planned this meeting here so that the king would have a shorter journey after his consecration ceremony. I'm sure the proceedings were very taxing, Your Majesty, whatever they were. It was taxing for sure, but it was my duty as king to bear that burden. Let's hope that something useful came out of all that. Saul was sitting across from me, still wearing his robes. He smiled enigmatically. Religion is not a tool to be used, Mrs. Aro. It is a guiding light that shines even on those who do not believe in it. Hugo nodded approvingly. I know better than to pry into the contents of the ceremony, Your Majesty, but I will say I hope it was an enlightening experience. You may proceed with your briefing, Duchess Azaro. With great pleasure, Your Grace. She gestured at one of the murals on the wall. It depicted a beautiful but severe-looking woman riding a horse down the King's Avenue, her rifle at the ready. My ancestress Anna Azaro ordered the construction of this foundry in 1812, immediately after the end of the War of Rizian Succession. House Azaro knows that peacetime is not a period of rest. It is a time to gather our strength and hone our weapons for when they are next needed. Because they most certainly will be needed. That's a rather pessimistic view, Duchess Azaro. Isn't peace the final state that all nations strive towards? Ideally, maybe, but reality has taught us that peace is fragile. We can only preserve it with hard work and a firm hand. I could hear the passion rising in her voice. The failed campaign on Pales and the rebellion of 1926 served as a double blow to the Rizian armed forces. Even after my father purged the troops and general staff of all suspected traitors to the throne, His Majesty King Valaro was reluctant to restore our military to its former strength. As a result, Your Majesty, we are ludicrously under-equipped for a country of our size. I mean, I didn't want to pour money into the military, but I mean, that's a fair point. We should at least have a standing military that's worth fighting. This is alarming. We need immediate measures to rectify the situation. Understanding the details will help us plan more effectively. Go ahead. We're facing shortages in critical areas like armored vehicles, advanced communication technology, and even basic infantry gear. I'd like to offer my insights on your strategic decision regarding our military priorities. A balanced approach without focusing on any particular branch allows us to allocate resources flexibly across various national priorities. The strength of our Rizian armed forces lies in the diversity of our resources and units. We have manpower ready for duty, which can be equipped with the necessary gear. Training these units, however, isn't an instantaneous process, as each unit, from infantry to naval, requires preparation. Ultimately, it's this readiness of our forces that will uphold our sovereignty and support our military strategies, both defensively and in projection of power. Lucida, could you outline how the cost of training and equipping our diverse units compare? The costs vary by unit, reflecting the complexity of their training and equipment. In any case, as the ultimate commander of our armed forces, the final decision rests with you. Let's see. We have much to consider. I'll review our position and inform you of my decision. Your diligence is appreciated. Let's go ahead and compliment her. Your diligence is appreciated, Lucida. Begin the preparations. I will deliver my instructions shortly after the meeting. It is important for our kingdom that the echoes of Pales and the rebellion teach us the deadly cost of unpreparedness. Our troops must reflect Rizia's resilience, ensuring such blows never weaken us again. We need to reconstitute our strength. We can achieve this thanks to my house. Camp Domus still runs the most rigorous, high-quality training program on the continent. Right, Captain Gordian? With lightning speed, she reached under the table, pulled out a knife, and hurled it in the direction of the doorway. Titus languidly snatched it out of the air. What type of anime nonsense is this? Very good. Your house should be commended for its deep devotion to protecting this country. Please don't kill me. We're pleased to serve. She grinned briefly before regaining her poise. but my point stands. There's still much work to be done. All right, if I were to invest part of our budget in the military, what are the areas most in need of improvement? I'm not even sure where to begin, Your Majesty. Let's try our weapons. You see the side. Despite our very grand surroundings, we have long neglected the potential of Fos de Tor. Broomberg currently supplies us with the bulk of our weaponry, including their KA-74 rifles. But if we invested more into research, development, and production in this city, our small arms industry could become a real force to be reckoned with. Do we have the capability to build larger weapons too? Not currently, Your Majesty. Even if we were able to begin production in that sector immediately, it would take years before our missile technology caught up to, say, Dirtius. Oh. A weapons deal with Dirtia could help improve relations between our country. It would depend on what they demand in return, Your Majesty. But I've set aside time to discuss Dirtia during our upcoming foreign policy meeting. I look forward to that conversation, Mr. Esquivel. Where were we, Your Majesty? Our Navy and Air Force. Our Navy has actually made significant strides in the past 30 years. We're a coastal nation, after all, and our fleet is both well-trained and up-to-date. This is, after me saying that it wasn't a coastal nation, but okay. Our submarines could use improvement, though. Compared to those currently coming out of Broomberg and Vogsland, they're practically ancient. Our Air Force, meanwhile, is still suffering the consequences of the Pales campaign. Lorento nodded grimly. We did not foresee that Lesbia would become so heavily involved, nor that they would provide the Grand Duchy with cutting-edge aircraft. All right, I didn't really consider that, yeah, if we did try to fight any type of war, we would have to look at the other neighbors that might get involved. And Lesbia, of course, had the best navy in the original games. I mean, had the best air force in the original game because they were getting supplied from Arcasia. So, all the problems. Okay. So, hypothetically speaking, if we tried to reconquer Pales again, they'd rain death on us from above. Hypothetically, yes. We're more well balanced than the sea. And then there's the question of our numbers. She shook her head. They could be better. As you know, our Central Royal Army is fed both by general conscription and levies from the individual provinces. Ah, great. It's just like Crusader Kings. If you ask me, the provincial armies should be pulling more weight, though I do understand that those of Brennus and Valenqueris are not nearly as well trained as Carde Monteclairs. I would also suggest extending the length of our conscription period and lowering the conscription age from 24 back to 18. Interesting. I never really thought about that. I'm not even sure what the conscription rules are here in the United States, because I think it varies each time. And I know that, like, if we have a draft, I think it goes up to about 35 now, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I've never really considered that. Yes, why did my father even raise the age to 24 anyway? And I mean, this might be a tricky situation, though, because, I mean, we've already had a lot of internal turmoil in the first place. So if we turn around and, lower the age, people might not be too happy. We might have to offset that with a lot of public works and infrastructure and stuff. 24 is the age by which a person's brain is fully formed, Your Majesty. Really? I mean, I know the science behind that, but that's what we're going with here? I do beg your pardon, Uncle Hugo. I mean no offense, Your Highness, but young people, especially young men, tend to make irrational decisions before that age. Hey, look, once again, if I'm paying taxes, I mean, come on now. You can't have people paying taxes on stuff and then not, want them to serve and stuff like that. Come on now. I mean, no offense, Your Highness, but young people, especially young men, tend to make irrational decisions before that age. Right, yeah, no, I disagree. If you're old enough to vote, you're old enough to fight for your country. My thoughts exactly. Time to move on to other matters. I mean, I hate to be harsh in this situation, but I mean, come on, man. I wonder if we can have something like national service too. So maybe it would go up to like the age of 24 or something like that. Maybe we could have something like what's going on in like Korea or I believe Switzerland that has it. So, does our internal security need improvement as well? Less so, Your Majesty. Our police forces have kept a firm handle on our populace since the uprising. Civil disobedience in Montclair, for example, is at a historic low thanks to my zero tolerance policies as Duchess. Valancourt, too, is unlikely to pose major difficulties as long as House Taurus is on the throne. And the Central Police, headquartered in Rizia Imperi, have been keeping the capital secure. The members of House Sazon who rule Brennus have mostly fallen in line following the uprising. They're content to use the House of Delegates as a forum for their grievances. She sighed. If there's a problem area, it's Isa. What? Is my cousin failing in his duties as Duke? Sure. Well, ruling the Brennus capital after its transfer to House Taurus would not be an easy task for anyone. Complicating matters are the large number of Wessex migrants who settled in the city following the Civil War. As I mentioned in our earlier meeting, some turned to the black market to supplement their meager guest worker income, giving rise to organized crime. What kind of black market activities? The drug trade, mostly. There are cartels connected to the families in Wayland, who in turn answer to powerful distributors in Agard. I attempted to tackle this myself with a community policing program, but the networks were too strong. Lucia sniffed. In my opinion, the growing influence of the nationalist group Suamina has only exacerbated tensions in the area. Certain members of House Taurus may disagree, of course. I agree completely. The provocations of people like my cousin will only stoke the flames of violence. The good Rizians of Isa are doing their best with the resources they've been given, Duchess, my son included. The problem, as I see it, lies in the lack of cooperation between the city's police force and those of surrounding regions. Is this just like the whole gendarmerie from Swordland? This is like the same thing all over again. Yes, I've received Duke Rico's complaints that the Brennus forces have not been providing him with as much aid as he wishes, as well as his request that extra police from our central forces be transferred to Isa and placed under his command, but I don't think that would solve anything. Let's see. Why aren't the Brennus police cooperating? They're providing some assistance, but my instinct is that they, like most of House Sazon, disagree with Duke Rico's policies and his associations with Suamina. Their political views should not matter. Their job is to protect and serve. I have the situation under control, Your Grace. You don't need to involve yourself with such a minor issue. I feel like it's going to be a major issue at some point. Hugo opened his mouth to respond. Lucida pretended not to notice. Well, Your Majesty, shall we continue with the briefing? What about our intelligence capabilities? They're just as important as our military strength. I was getting to that, Your Majesty. We have operatives in Morella, Dirtia, Central Wayland, Lesbia, and Runeberg. His Majesty Valero, however, insisted on withdrawing our intelligence presence from Zeal and Pales. Why? That's ridiculous. We need to keep a close watch on everybody. What the world? Yeah, that's ridiculous. Yes, my father told him the same thing. He was afraid of drawing their leaders' suspicions. In my experience, we have much more to gain from straightforward diplomacy than from cloak and dagger operations. Mr. Escobar, if you think Wayland and Pales are not spying on Rizia, you're fooling yourself. Now, I do feel like that might be problematic in Wayland because of how much control Smolik has there. But still, maybe you should try a little bit, especially in Pales. Come on, man. Lorenzo sniffed indignantly. What useful information were we receiving from either region before the operatives' withdrawal? We learned of the prior Duke Joma's abdication before it was officially announced, for one. Can the agents in those regions be placed back in position? Now that they've been withdrawn, it will be difficult and a costly process to get them back into place. But I can inquire into the possibility. What about our domestic intelligence services? Domestically, our main intelligence focus has been on preventing another uprising. To that end, our information gathering has been concentrated in Brennus, where the last anti-monarchist movement originated. What about Carde Monteclair? The military was involved in the last uprising as well. As I've mentioned, the military has been purged and my province is now under the strictest of control. Any other questions, Your Majesty? You've given me a lot to think about. Let's call it a day for now. The heavy wooden door to the hall creaked open. An aide rushed over to Lorenzo and whispered something in his ear. I see. I'll get to a telephone right away. He turned to the rest of us, his usual jocular expression overlaid with concern. I must excuse myself briefly, ladies and gentlemen. Please continue without me. What is it? I will explain once I have all the details. He gave a quick bow, then rushed out of the room. I wonder what that could be about. Checking the time. If we leave soon, we can make it back to Port Drazin before it gets too late. She signaled to Titus, who tossed her knife back at her. In one fluid motion, she hiked up her gown, caught the projectile, and stowed it in a leather holster strapped to her thigh. Lower your hem, Duchess. The Lord frowns upon such indecency. Careful with that. I had a bad dream involving stabbing. Nice catch. I'm just gonna go with nice catch. It was nothing. In my fitter days, I could do it hands-free. Sita smooth out her gown. An early return to the capital would be my preference as well. But where's Mr. Escobar? The door swung open again and Lorenzo came back into the hall. He wiped his brow with a silk pocket square. Well, Mr. Escobar, I hope you brought us good news. Of course not. It's too early to tell if it's good or bad, but it's certainly impactful. I just received official confirmation that our neighbor has been accepted into the Arcasian Treaty Organization. That's not good. Of course it wouldn't be Wayland. Lesbia? Precisely. Prime Minister Alvarez will make the official announcement tomorrow. Didn't we all see this coming? It should hardly be a surprise. Indeed, this development has been on the horizon for some time, but our relations with our neighbors are sure to change because of it. Thank you for updating us, Mr. Escobar. I suggest we set a date for a meeting to discuss Lesbia's ADO membership, as well as a general foreign policy strategy. Preferably as soon as possible. We must decide on our official stance. We are not expected to come out against or in favor of Lesbia's alignment, but we should get on the same page as a council. That is, after the lovely evening of musical entertainment that the king has so generously organized for us. Ah, yes. Albany was an excellent choice, Your Majesty, although I do hope the performance showcases his earlier work, not his more chaotic contemporary offerings. Hmm. It's precisely that chaos that makes them so compelling. He's pushing the boundaries of music itself. I have no idea, so sure. Boundaries exist for a reason, my nephew. But if you see the merit in his newer works, I will give them a chance. I don't like it when he calls me nephew. I confess it all sounds old-fashioned to me. Have you heard the jazz that's coming out of Quinaul these days? But you have my house's gratitude for the gesture, Your Majesty. I'll inform our host that we'll be departing shortly. She pushes back her chair and briskly left the hall. I looked over at my daughter. Her brow was furrowed. The Arcadian Treaty Organization, what will that mean for us? Nothing good, that's for sure. I had barely even started my reign and it already felt like the ground was shifting beneath my feet. What other challenges lay in store? Oh man, we just can't have like a little peaceful moment, can we? You know, in the main game we had an assassination and everything, and now we have this to deal with. So I guess a bit more peaceful, you know, if you look at it, but still. Read the report. Students hold walkout to protest treatment of labor hands. Students at Isa University led a walkout yesterday, purportedly in solidarity with Wessex and Dirty and labor hands. A representative of the youth-led movement called for a comprehensive review and reform of the policy, emphasizing the need for equitable treatment of all workers within Rizia. We'll get to it. Let's see, what do we have for the news? Another decade of peace. Erdmark and Runeberg are observing the second decade of their uneasy permanent ceasefire, marking a significant milestone in their relations. Despite their monarchic roots, the two nations have adopted differing foreign policies, with Runeberg being a member of Grace and the Kingdom of Erdmark maintaining its independence. The sustained ceasefire has led to some economic and cultural exchanges, though underlying historical tensions due to the past conflict remain. The ceasefire's durability is as a testament to diplomatic efforts by Arcadia, despite the international alignments, with the Kingdom of Erdmark leaning more towards Somme Mayor and a defensive alliance. Don't know any of these people, but okay. And a sure sign that Morella is positioning itself ever closer to the CSP, Prime Minister Alma Sultana invited Volkslandian Chancellor Imre Kegel to visit her country. It was Volksland's first ever diplomatic visit to Morella. Discussions took place behind closed doors, but sources say that the two leaders discussed the topic of workers' rights in the Meftium International Trade Zone, otherwise known as the MITS, as well as the potential opening of a trade route between their countries. Okay. And Alvarez confirms Lesbia's ADO membership. In a speech given in Perla, Prime Minister Patricio Alvarez announced that Lesbia had joined the Arcadian Treaty Organization, otherwise known as not NATO or ADO. The strategic military alliance focused on countering the influence of the United Cantana and the CSP, otherwise known as the Soviet Union. Alvarez had been seen meeting with Arcadian President Dwight Walker, otherwise known as Richard Nixon, multiple times since his appointment as prime minister, and for most geopolitical experts, the question was not if, but when. We believe that joining ADO is a natural extension of our commitment to maintaining stability and security in our region, said PM Alvarez. We are proud to be a member of this alliance, and we look forward to working with fellow member states to promote peace, security, and prosperity for all. Lesbia is the first Eastern Marcopan nation to ally with the organization, prompting the question, who's next? Alrighty. Let's see what to do. Oh, okay. So I can just add to these. Okay, so currently our manpower is 3250, equipment is 2500, tanks is 25, trucks is 100, battleships 1, submarines 0. Huh. So we have the militia. Militia divisions are made out of a few thousand volunteer fighters, often sent to the front lines with little training. Paratroopers. Paratroopers can be deployed behind enemy lines to cut supply lines and help facilitate breakthroughs. Golden Guard. The Golden Guard are elite soldiers acting as the official bodyguard of the king. They are particularly skilled at defensive tasks. Azaro Elites. Azaro Elites are battle-hardened veterans mobilized by House Azaro, specialized in defensive operations. Suzerain Levies. Suzerain Levies are infantry troops that excel at support duties operating in service of House Suzerain. Marines are special forces trained in storming coasts and establishing beachheads. These units can be deployed from ships. Mountaineer. Mountaineer divisions are specialized forces that excel at mountain combat. These face no penalties while moving on mountains. Okay, so this strategy stuff is going to be a little deep. Mercenary. Mercenaries are soldiers mobilized to fight for Rizia against enemies. Special unit, not trainable. Flagship. A flagship is the pride of a fleet, a nearly unsinkable mass of steel capable of carrying out varied tasks with its large batteries. Huh. It's funny because it seems like this is going to be pretty deep, but I mean, how long is this DLC? I would imagine it's not going to be that long. Can I add another tank? Okay. I've added another tank. I have no idea what that means. Maybe I should just leave this alone for now till I get more explanation. Because it looks like you need people, equipment. I'm not sure what the tank thing is, and I'm not sure what the... Oh, that's trucks. Right? Okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave this alone for right now. Yeah, let's leave that alone for right now until I get more info about this. Oh, okay, this is just saying I don't have enough authority to do these. Lower conscription age to 18, remove provincial police. In our resolute commitment to enhancing national security and streamlining the machinery of law enforcement, we announced the abolition of all provincial police forces. This move seeks to integrate varied forces into one cohesive, centralized entity directly managed by the national government. While centralization will lead to increased authority at the national level and budgetary reallocations, it might entail a temporary decrease in manpower. Oh, okay, but that adds to the military. Huh. Okay. Lower conscription age. This will be -3 authority, -2 budget, and plus 1,000 military power. Okay. And of course, this is just decreasing the age. Increase conscription duration by 12 months. I can sign this. It's -1 authority, -3 budget, but plus 500 military manpower. That's a lot of military stuff. I mean, that's a lot of money to be spending right now. And granted, I'll get that back next turn, but I wanted to kind of focus on some other things, so I probably won't do that. And remove provincial levy obligation, I'm sure. Yeah, I was about to say she wouldn't like that. And then I can increase it. It's -4 authority. Give me 2 house troops, 250 military manpower, 250 military equipment. Don't really know what that means, but okay. Remove the death penalty. It's -2 authority, -2 budget. The kingdom officially abolishes the death penalty in all its jurisdictions, affirming a profound commitment to human rights and the sanctity of human life. This historic decision marks a shift towards more humane forms of justice, aligning with evolving global standards of decency and respect for life. As we transition to alternative punitive measures, the state prepares for the implications of housing an increased prison population, recognizing the additional resources and infrastructural adjustments this will entail. Okay. And of course, I can enforce the religious education. Goodness gracious. I can build a military equipment factory. In a bid to fortify our military capabilities and ensure self-reliance in armaments, we are establishing the Fos Dator military equipment factory in the territory of House Azaro. Though this venture will be situated on House Azaro's land, it will be operated and managed by the Rizian monarchy. Post-construction, this state-of-the-art facility will produce a yearly cache of indigenous small arms, equipment, clothing, radios, and boots. We see this as a step not only towards strengthening our defenses, but also as a significant stride in the fostering domestic manufacturing, thereby contributing to our national economy. Okay. So it'll cost me some energy. I'll lose 1 authority. I'll lose 2 budget. It'll take 2 turns to construct, 250 military. I think I might actually sign that. Can build a support vehicle. That will cost all of my budget. And I can build a tank factory. That will cost 4 budget. Jesus. Okay, I am going to build the military equipment factory. I do think that that would help. Okay, and hopefully at some point I can get to some of these others. Now, let's stop spending money. I also wonder if we can run a negative. And I wonder how far we can run negative. Of course, for things like the authority stuff, of course you can't do that, but medium initial global energy. I didn't even see these. Oh, these must have just popped up recently. Good God. Okay. Medium initial global energy sale. An exploratory move into moderate one-time energy export transaction surfaces, weighing fiscal uptick against safeguarding our energy assets. With the measured release of surplus energy to the global market, Rizia aims to ensure a beneficial deal while maintaining a tight grip on domestic energy steadiness and price equilibrium. It will cost 3 energy, which will leave us with 2, so we lose 1 by next turn. It's not really bad, but that also implies that we're gonna do more. We're gonna have more energy in the future. I don't know if I want to do that. I wouldn't mind this one, but I also don't feel like it's really that big a deal. I kind of feel like I should do the large just because, but maybe I should just wait on this. Yeah, I think I'm gonna just wait on this stuff for right now because I don't want to do anything too crazy. And then next thing I know, I get hit by the mother of all events in this game, and then I get screwed. Investing in the Rizian football industry. Okay. The Rizian Football Federation is at a crossroads. Royal Montclair remains a global icon, while FC Port Dresden, an ambitious but smaller club, struggles in their shadow. The choice of investment strategy could significantly influence the future trajectory of Rizian football, either by bolstering the prestige of an already renowned club or by nurturing emerging talents to foster a more competitive domestic landscape. Really? Jesus. Okay. Sure. Now I think I'm going to sell some of that energy. Just good grief. All right. Yeah, let's do a medium sale. It'll cost me 3 energy. Okay. That'll mean we'll have 5 in the next turn. That makes me a little uneasy, but sure, we can go with that. Oh, we can do this several times. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and continue. The Golden Kingdom. All right. So now we have a lot more options on what we can do. I do kind of want to lower the conscription age, but maybe I shouldn't be so hasty with that. There's so many options. Like I don't know, I don't know where I should really begin with this. Increase conscription duration by 12 months. And of course, there's economic things that we can do. Extensive geological survey initiative. Launching a detailed geological survey, the kingdom meticulously explores its territories for latent mineral resources, delving into the hidden depths of Rizia's landscape. A considerable financial and authoritative investment is directed toward unearthing potential treasures concealed beneath the nation's crust. While the tangible outcomes remain enveloped in the mysteries of geological exploration, the latent prospects of discovering new mines hints at promising economic advancements. This significant decree signals a bold stride towards uncharted economic opportunities, pivoting on the anticipated bounties concealed beneath. I kind of want to do that, actually. My God, there's just there's a lot of options, and I don't know how much time I have. Good Lord. Welfare privatization. The kingdom embarks on a monumental shift by transitioning a minority of the welfare, health, and education services to the private sector. Oh, wait. Nope. Not even remotely. Don't want to do that. Tax credit for businesses. Okay. One-time government stimulus checks for the people. That will cost 3 budget. Good Lord. The kingdom resolves to distribute a one-time financial stimulus directly to its citizens. Okay. We don't really, I don't think we should do the public rail thing because we already have the public rail system thing that we agreed on. Investments in public transport. I thought we already did this. Wait, we didn't do that? I could have sworn I did this last turn. Is that a bug? Maybe I didn't do it. I'll have to go back and look at the video. But yeah, I could have sworn we did the investment in public transport. So that makes me wonder because we also did. Okay, we did naturalization process for foreigners, housing for the poor. Oh, okay, yeah, maybe we didn't. Because now that I think about it, I think I didn't do it because I thought it might be a little expensive for right now. Now, I didn't want to do the kind of halfway measure of just doing subsidies. Okay. Let's see. Legalize illegal substances. I'm sure the preacher will not like that. Huh. He's just kind of neutral about it. Didn't expect that. Impose equal gender pay. Okay. Tenant protection laws. New tenant protection laws are enacted to bolster the rights and safeguards for renters. These laws will introduce measures to prevent unreasonable evictions, establish fair lease agreements, regulate rental increases, and ensure the maintenance of habitable living conditions. This framework is designed to create a more stable and equitable housing market, fostering a sense of security and dignity. You know, I will say, I kind of wish, there was something that would kind of advise you about these things. Like if you had some type of like a little bubble thing or something like that, and it would kind of advise you about, you know, these policies, because some of this stuff is kind of blatant and it kind of just, you know, it makes sense. It makes sense from the get go. But other stuff, I kind of wish there was more explanation on, you know, who it would affect and stuff like that. That is a tall ask, and I'm not even asking it, but that is just something that I would kind of like. Oh, we can sell military equipment, or we can buy military stuff. Huh. We can build. Oh, good Lord. This is a lot. This is a lot. Oh boy. Maybe maybe I will kind of stay away from this stuff for right now, because I really don't know what any of this means. I will do the energy thing, because we do need to find more resources and things like that. But yeah, some of these other ones like this, I have no idea what this is really going to mean in the long run. So let's just stay away from this from right now. All right, where's that energy thing? Energy, yeah, it's energy subsidies. No. Extensive geological survey. Let's do that. Assignment started. Oh, God. Okay. All right, so what do we have here? We have a council meeting on foreign relations is right there. Nelvisar oil field closure. This will shut down its operations. A significant chapter in Rizia's oil history is drawing to a close. The Nelvisar oil field at Fos de Tur, an instrumental asset since its discovery in 1895, faces imminent shutdown. Despite the depletion of its once abundant reserves, the field has continually played a role in meeting Rizia's oil demands. Under the unwavering management of Rizian oil and gas, the field has stood the test of time, but nature's limits are becoming evident. Where one door closes, another opens. Read the report. Oil workers commemorate closing field. Oil workers in Nelvisar organize a commemoration for the closing field, marked with a parade of the workers through the town and a large gala held in their honor. While some will keep their jobs for the foreseeable future as operations wind down, many are now unemployed and have to look elsewhere for employment. Maybe this is a good time to do the checks thing. Yeah, maybe we should do the one-time checks for right now. Kind of help people get by in the meantime. -2 authority, -3 budget. That's my entire budget. Jesus. Come on. And we have some energy, but I don't know if I can really afford to do that right now. Can I do a medium sale of energy real quick again? So first batch of military equipment, that's minus 500 military equipment. How much military equipment do we have? We have 2,500. Well, I guess, well, I did not mean to pop over here. I guess we could do it because we do need some money. I want to keep some money around. Of course, she's not gonna like that. But it gives us 2 budget. Oh, 75 support vehicles. We have. Is that like the trucks you mean? We have 100. Oh, hell no. That's way too many. Yeah, let's sell some of the equipment. Yes, sell first batch of tanks. No. Almost nobody likes this. But yeah, let's do that. And let's turn around. Can we sell some energy? Because that's what I originally wanted to do. I can do a small initial global energy. Oh, that's a purchase. And it doesn't look like I can sell any energy. Medium. Okay, yeah, there we go. Oh, mine is 4. Jesus. And that's just for 2 energy? Nah. Yeah, I'll do this. This is just 1, and that's plus 1 to the budget, and I don't lose any authority. Okay, so I'm going to stop now. All right, so let's go ahead and go to the council meeting on foreign relations. And I heard this DLC is supposed to be between like 4 and 8 hours long. How? Then again, I mean, Cosmic Will Sisterhood was like about 8 hours, maybe 9 hours long. It's pretty deep as far as the content goes. So the day of my foreign policy council meeting had arrived, and it was a hot one. The fans in Palace Resna provided little relief. I decided to take in some fresh air in the palace gardens. Pabel had hired a new groundskeeper who faithfully maintained his father's arrangements. Before he was my butler, my friend had explained to me that the plants and flowers were laid out geographically. Rican ferns in the east, Zenin lilies in the south, a Roomberg-style rose garden in the north. To the west was a labyrinth hedge maze made of laurels donated from the kingdom of Narberk. I spent a while wandering around, then returned to the middle of the garden, where a series of stone sculptures were surrounded by Rizian palms and succulents. To my left, I saw Vina reading a book on a bench beneath a decorative stone arch. In the date palm grove to my right, I caught a glimpse of my mother. Let's talk to Vina. I made my way to the stone arch and sat down next to my daughter. Oh, hello, father. Sorry if Uncle Hugo made you feel uncomfortable the other day. That's okay. I know he means well. Does he? This must be overwhelming for you as well. So many decisions to make. It's overwhelming at times, but I trust the council to help me decide. I can't imagine how it feels to hold all that power. What do you think of the House of Delegates? Will you go talk to them? I'm going to say the only reason I would do that is to find out the opposition's weakness. Of course I will. They're the best hope we have for giving Rizians an actual voice. Any good monarch listens to the will of the public. Queen Liza always said that. Wise words from a wise woman. By the time she was my age, she'd already been queen for a year. Imagine. A clock chimed in the distance. It was time for the meeting. Lead the way, Your Highness. As Vina and I walked into the council chambers, we found the other counselors already there, deep in conversation. A superpower suddenly taking an interest in this part of the continent. What's next? All of our children will have to learn Arcasian? The decision wasn't made with any ill intent towards Rizia. There are greater global forces at work than what's happening in our corner of South Marcopa. What the superpowers decide affects us, Mr. Escobel. Their intent is of no importance. Care to catch me up? The three of them noticed me and fell silent. Excuse us, Your Majesty. We were just discussing the recent news concerning Lesbia's membership in NATO. I agree with Duchess Azaro. We should be very concerned. Why do you believe that, Your Majesty? Arcasia has a track record of sowing instability. We can't afford another uprising. Rarely has Ado expanded without chaos following close behind. What would you have us do, Duchess Azaro? We're on shaky enough ground with Lesbia as it is. Of course we should act sensibly, but we need to show the Republic and its new friends that Rizia can hold its own. Miss Warner, will this new alliance have economic consequences? It's early to say, Your Majesty. Our most significant economic relationship with Lesbia is our partnership in the Meftium International Trade Zone. Having Arcasia behind them might well embolden Lesbia to push for a larger share in the ITS, but they'd also have Voxland and Morella to contend with. Lesbia using Arcasia's backing to strengthen economic ties with Pales could also have negative ramifications, especially when it comes to the new gas field. Lorenzo, what are our current relations with Lesbia? I would categorize them as neutral but frosty, Your Majesty. Queen Liza's diplomacy kept us on good terms with Lesbia for a time after the transition to democracy, but things were beginning to sour even before the Pales conflict. We still maintain embassies in each other's countries, but I haven't met with their foreign ministry since before the election of their new Prime Minister Alvarez. Hugo, does this development pose a threat to the Rizian monarchy? Sure. Not an immediate one, Your Majesty, but we must be watchful. We have seen Arcasian-backed revolutions succeed in Rika and Xena, and we do suspect the Saisons were communicating with Arcasia prior to the 1926 uprising. Quinal's Ado membership was already cause for concern 5 years ago. With Lesbia in the alliance as well, Arcasia's influence is present to both our north and our south. There's great potential for destabilization. On the other hand, Your Grace, Arcasia has friendly ties with at least one monarchy. You may recall the President Dwight Walker actually boasts Brumbergian's heritage. Oh, I didn't know that. What are the security implications of this alliance, Duchess Azaro? Of course, because this is what leads to eventually in the main game when Runeberg decides, yeah, they're joining Ado if you join the Contanin Pact. What are the security implications of this alliance, Duchess Azaro? We can definitely expect the Arcasian military to increase their presence in Lesbia. Lesbia already houses Arcasian military personnel. Air and naval bases cannot be far behind. Yep. I can't say for certain that all that firepower will be directed against us in case of a conflict, but it does enhance the threat that Lesbia and yes, potentially Pales poses to our kingdom. All right, what do you all think I should do? Everybody began talking at once. Hugo motioned for silence. In my view, Rizia should bolster our alliances with our fellow monarchies, like Runeberg and the rest of the Guild of Royal Alliances for commercial exchange. Building stronger bonds with them will not only enrich us, it will counterbalance Ado's democratic influence. This is true, but we can't rely on grace to come to our aid in a conflict. For that, we will need to build up our military and defensive capabilities. I'd say it's more crucial to form new trade relationships with our other neighbors. If Lesbia becomes even more of an economic juggernaut in our region, it'll upset the balance of power. And I don't think we should ignore the opportunity to thaw our relationship with Lesbia itself. I, for one, would rather handle them as a friend than a foe. Any thoughts, Vina? Oh, we certainly don't want tensions to rise with Lesbia at this point, do we? But we don't want Ado's influence to overwhelm us either. What about using cultural exchanges and other partnerships to spread Rizia's own influence beyond our borders? Huh. It's actually a really good idea. Brilliant, Vina. Arcasia isn't the only nation capable of promoting itself through soft power. I have an idea regarding this. I'll bring it up at the end of the meeting. Anything to add, Grand Wiseman? Well, Your Majesty, the teachings of St. Wurick compel us to exercise goodwill and compassion towards our neighbors. On the other hand, we must be watchful that Lesbia does not use its new international clout to further the spread of the Desnurus faith. I'd like to get a full picture of Rizia's geopolitical situation before offering my own opinion. Certainly, Your Majesty. That's what today is for. Lorenzo walked to the chamber's back wall and pulled down a map of southeast Marcopa. What shall we discuss first? We need to talk about Wayland. Oh, God. Of course. Lorenzo rearranged some of the papers he was holding. Relations with our one-time allies have been turbulent at best since the Civil War. The international unpopularity of the current president, Victor Smolik, has only complicated matters. Rizia wouldn't be where we were today without Wayland. We can't abandon our partnership. It's not a good look for us to remain linked to them. I mean, yeah, but at the same time, they're right there. This could help us out quite a bit. And I mean, they are reliable in the main game as long as, you know, things work out accordingly. But yeah, problematic human rights concerns and such, you know, that type of stuff. Let's see. Yeah, and I don't honestly know if I really want to cut ties, but I do want Zeal back. So that's problematic. Let's say my father made a deal with Wayland on good faith. Wayland so far has respected the deal. It's not wrong. One might see it that way. Wayland's access to Zeal's land and resources helped bring it out of recession after the war. Smolik will have difficulty letting go of such a valuable asset. Let's see. Can we count on him to honor the terms of the treaty? Smolik is not as weak as he seems. It will take a great deal of time and effort before our firepower matches his. He may act boldly. Currently, their ministry is working in close cooperation with us, and President Smolik has promised to honor the treaty. In the meantime, any perceived aggression on our part may only give him an excuse to break it. Can the international community be relied upon to intervene if Smolik breaks a signed pact? Of course not. Given how many countries depend on Wessex oil, either directly or indirectly, I wouldn't be so sure about that. The funding Wayland has received from United Contana may also have Smolik believing he can act with impunity. What about the people of Zeal? Surely they can't wait for the land to be returned to Rizia. Yeah, sure. Half of the country's native Rizian population fled during the Civil War, like the Queen Mother's parents, I recall. Among those who were stubborn enough to stay, opinion is divided. We have to remember that it's been almost 25 years. I will act diplomatically with President Smolik. We can sweeten the deal if necessary. I will appease him until we get Zeal back. Yeah, let's not say that. It may come off as weak to the rest of the counselors. Let's just say, moving on. When is my next diplomatic visit to Wayland? As a matter of fact, you're slated for a trip to Zeal at the end of this year for the second to last Wessex Rizian Friendship Day. Sounds like a great place. The name's got to be some kind of joke. President Smolik fancies himself the humorous type, Your Majesty. Oh, God. Yeah, because we all know Smolik is a funny guy. Friendship Day is the celebration that's been held in Zeal each year since the treaty was signed. Since Smolik took over, he's used the occasion to trot out all the shiny new tanks Wayland's oil money and United Contanin funding has brought him. Your presence will at the very least remind him of the occupation's temporary nature. I'll talk to him. Maybe we can come to a productive agreement. An admirable impulse, but this is unfortunately only a ceremony, not a diplomatic talk. For now, I propose we move on with our briefing. Isn't the Pales the topic of the day? I was just about to bring up the Grand Duchy. Your father confided in me about your meeting with Duke Reinhardt, but he never told me what came of it. He wanted renewed relations between Rizia and Pales, as do I. It's refreshing to hear you say that. I myself advised your father to speak with the new Duke of Pales, to no avail, of course. Compared to his brother, Joma, Axel Reinhardt seems far more amenable to a thaw between our countries. He wasn't even born when Rizia and Pales were fighting, and I suspect he is beginning to see the disadvantages of staying connected to Lesbia. Tell me more about the current relationships between Pales and Lesbia. Oh, great. This is going to be... So if I end up getting the Grand Duchy of Pales, I may have to deal with possible stuff from Lesbia. Wonderful. The Grand Duchy has been heavily dependent on the Republic of Lesbia since the 1920s, Your Majesty. Our northern neighbor has taken extensive advantage of the natural gas reserves off the southern Pelasian coast. Lesbia has also relocated a number of its major corporations to Pales in exchange for extremely generous tax breaks. In addition to the resulting income, Pales has access to Lesbian technology and military equipment, which at the moment surpasses our own. Pales still has a Rizian-speaking population, right? How influential are they? They are a minority, but a vocal one. They believe in the preservation of the Rizian language, but they still consider themselves Pelasian at heart. Duke Joma's proposed Rizian ban was a bridge too far for them. They seem to heavily favor his brother. Where's Voxland in all this? Does Pales have any relationship with the Republic? Not a friendly one. Most Volkish Pelasians were and still are vehemently against their ancestral homelands turned to socialism. In turn, the Republic of Voxland has had nothing to do with its former colonies since the Reinhardt's decision to seek protection from Lesbia. Back in the 1920s, there were a few attempts at marshaling support for a Voxlandian socialist revolution in the Grand Duchy. None bore fruit. I'm beginning to get a good grasp of the situation there. Are you leaning towards any particular diplomatic strategy regarding Pales, Your Majesty? It was open to closer ties with Pales before, but Lesbia Ado membership might make that more complicated. I bear no ill will towards Pales. You're right that a close relationship would be advantageous. A Voxlandian socialist revolution, you say? Is it too late to start one over there now? I was honestly, I was kind of thinking that. I know that's devious. That's really devious. But I feel like we're going to have to rely, or at least I'm going to have to rely more on, intelligence stuff and trying to do sneaky things on the side in order to try to get some of these places back. I don't know about with Zeal, but if I don't want to have, too much military stuff going on, I'm going to have more intelligent stuff going on. So maybe I will have to try to have some type of socialist revolution going on. That would be highly inadvisable. Aside from the violence that would result, it would leave Rizia open to a similar fate. For once we agree, Mr. Escobar, let's leave Voxland far out of this. Shall I continue? I haven't heard much about the countries of the former empire of Meridia. Do you want to discuss Morella or Dirtia? Morella. I think there might be a problem. You've already heard about their new left-wing ruling coalition, correct? Please enlighten me. After years of infighting, the country's left-leaning parties miraculously united in time to win this year's election. The politician who managed this feat is now Morella's new prime minister, Alma Sultana, or as she might prefer it, Comrade Alma Sultana. Hugo grimaced. Lesbia and Ada are enough of a threat without the Malinyevis knocking at our back door. I don't know. Arcadian liberalism is a far worse threat to our way of life than Melanievism. Neither ideology respects the sovereignty of a monarch. I see them as two sides of one coin. In this case, it's Voxlandian socialism we ought to be worried about, not Melanievism. Barilla doesn't stand a chance of entering the Contanin Security Pact, not with its current level of poverty. But there are rumors that Prime Minister Sultana has been arranging meetings with Voxlandian Chancellor Imrich Hegel. And how are relationships with Voxland at the moment? Neutral at best, Your Majesty. As we all know, House Taurus has historical ties to the late Vulgus Empire, but Chancellor Hegel isn't exactly brimming with nostalgia for that era. So far, our trade relationship with Morella have not been affected, nor has our partnership in the International Trade Zone. But Morella and Voxland teaming up in the arena could potentially be more of a concern than Lesbia. As for Morella's neighbor Dirtia, our relations with them have become strained since the country's conversion to a theocracy. Oh, great. However, we still maintain a number of cooperative agreements, including our acceptance of Dirtian migrants as labor hands. I must say that their supreme wiseman, Jorga Osmo, did not approve of our ban on Gokandis pilgrims to Rizian holy sites. Yes, His Majesty and I discussed that ban prior to our ceremony in Plavo. If the ban is harming our relations with Dirtia, perhaps it should be reconsidered. I would not be opposed to replacing the Gokandis ban with one on, say, Desnuris. That may have strayed They may have strayed, gentlemen, but Gokandis and Dasnuris are both our brethren. I'm merely worried. I'm merely worried the growing number of Gokandis visitors at sites like Plavo, and their rather physical interpretation of our religion were alienating the true Ruicist believers. I will point out that our stance on Gokandis is far gentler than Morella's. Yes, they've taken to blocking Dirtians at the border entirely, resulting in some rather nasty armed skirmishes. I take it the Morellans wouldn't be thrilled if we revoked our own ban. No, they've been having a hard enough time keeping the Gokandis at bay. Say what you will about Dirtians' belief, you can't argue with their weaponry. It's part of their warrior culture, Duchess. Their practice is centered on martial discipline and physical strength. Can Dirtia be bargained with? Everyone can be bargained with, Your Majesty. Like with the Smoluk, Mr. Asmal may be looking for a way to end his country's geopolitical isolation. What's going on in Swordland? Now, I did hear that, again, if you played the original game, and this was kind of hinted at the beginning, if you played the original game, the decisions that you made, of course, throughout the game and after you completed it would affect certain things in the DLC. I don't know how that works because, again, this is supposed to be set before before the main game, but I'm guessing this is one of those situations. Apparently, because I didn't finish this, there's a default Swordland in this case. I'm not sure what that entails, though. Now that the Colonel has decided to retire, you mean? His successor is called Ewald Alfonso. From everything I've heard, he's sole exact opposite. In what way? Think sweeping privatization and tax cuts. Sol is forced out of power, more women in prominent positions, although he has yet to pass the kind of liberatory reforms our beloved Liza did. Speaking of Liza, she's the one who first opened trade negotiations with Swordland back when it was still a kingdom, but Sol's disdain for the monarchy kept us from continuing down that path. The Alfonso administration, meanwhile, has no such qualms about royalty. In fact, his new development minister, Gus Manger, has already had personal business dealings in Rizia. Our friend Mr. Montaro of Rizian Royal Gold has been making overtures to the Swordish oligarchy, it seems. Birds of crassly ostentatious plumage flock together. I don't like your tone, Hugo. Rusty and the Swordish oligarchs are self-made men. I respect that. Definitely not saying that. I'm not sure if I trust either Alfonso or his ministers, but I'm open to proposals. It would be a feat to repair our ties with Swordland. Perhaps the glory days of Liza are not lost after all. I'll contact you once Alfonso has agreed on a date for his visit. That's everything, isn't it, Mr. Escabel? Lorenzo turned away from the map towards me. There's one more country we haven't discussed. Broomberg. Yes, how are my in-laws? Our allies, Queen Beatrice and her country, are doing fine from what we're seeing. Miss Warner already mentioned the large amounts of gold we export to the country through their strategic port Grim. Terrible name. We also have a deal allowing Roomberg ships priority access to our ports in Port Dresden and Monquise. We are, in essence, their gateway to the Antison Sea. Militarily speaking, the alliance doesn't amount to much. Roomberg will supply us with arms in case of war, but neither of our countries is officially obligated to come to the other's aid. What are these rumors about Roomberg interfering in Wayland? Nothing's been proven, Your Majesty, but we're fairly sure Roomberg has been arming Blutish separatists in the country's northeast. The same might be happening across the border in Swordland. You know, I hate being on the flip side of this, but the destabilization might be. I mean, it is smart. It really is. I did think that the entire time I was playing with Sorlin or whatever, that it was annoying and it was very smart, and I hated every last minute of it. Maybe I'll just say, so our alliance with Runeberg is a liability when it comes to relations with Wayland and Sorlin. Our alliance shouldn't stop us from pursuing diplomacy with either nation. But I wouldn't rule out the possibility of escalation from Runeberg's side. Both countries are rich in one thing Runeberg still needs: energy. Yes, Her Excellency has made Runeberg's oil and natural gas needs plainly known. If we end up with a stake in the new field, I fully expect her to come calling. uh, I mean, yeah, it would strengthen our partnership, but I mean, again, they're very far away. Like, how useful is that going to be? What is Runeberg even using? Because of the nuclear weapon, yes. But I'll ask, what is Runeberg even using all this energy for? They've been manufacturing a lot more than Ka-74s lately. I've heard stories about experimental weapons that would put Arcasia to shame. I will remind the Council of our prior conversation regarding Edo and the necessity of strengthening our bond with other monarchies, especially Runeberg. Fortunately, we have living evidence of that bond right here at this table. All eyes turned to Vina. She looked up from the notes she'd been taking. Yes, don't worry. Aunt B still dotes on me. I'm like the daughter she never had. Good. See to it that you remain in Her Excellency's good graces. The Queen is still fond of me as well. She knows how much I loved Lena. Maybe it's time we both arrange the visit with Aunt B. Hugo glanced at the clock. Before we conclude, there's still the matter of His Majesty's stance on Lesbia's Edo membership. Do you have any further thoughts on that? My counselors looked up at me in expectation. Oh man. The choices. Hugo has the right idea. Aligning more closely with Runeberg and Grace will protect us from Arcasia's growing sphere of influence. Now, from what I remember, again, I did play a little bit of the game after the amendment update. Runeberg gave me the vibe that they were, I mean, not Runeberg, but Rizia gave me the vibe that they were kind of desperate and kind of like really looking to make some deals and stuff like that. So, you know, again, this is the default Rizia, so maybe so. But yeah, they kind of seemed a little like they were really kind of clamoring to make a deal. Cautious, but still kind of clamoring to do so. So, and it maybe it was because of the influence of Grace and stuff like that. So, but again, I don't know if I necessarily want to do that. I don't know if I want to kind of stay aligned with Grace because, again, it's primarily Runeberg and they're very far away. It's not a very helpful alliance. So let's see the other options. I like Elena's suggestion. Sealing new economic pacts with other Marcopan countries will help us become a regional power in our own right. I agree with Lucida that we cannot look weak in Lesbia and Volkland's eyes. Our military and intelligence should be our number one focus. Lorenzo, you're right that it would behoove us to grow closer to Lesbia and Edo instead of making enemies of them. I definitely don't want to do that. Yeah, because that's the thing. Like, I kind of want to do a combination of this because I don't want to really focus on our military, but I do want to focus on intelligence. We really do need to kind of beef up our intelligence so we can do things in other countries. But I also really do like Alina's suggestions about sealing economic pacts with other Marcopan countries. I do want to try and, you know, make as many alliances as I possibly can and kind of stay neutral to certain things. I want to be Switzerland, or I want to be Kairut in this case. So yeah, I think I'm just going to choose the last option. You all have very good ideas. I would consider a combination of these approaches. Hugo nodded. Very good, Your Majesty. I did have one more proposition before we adjourn. Jeez, y'all keep saying that. I was quite fond of the princess's suggestion that we increase Rizian soft power outside of our borders. We've also spoken of the need to stoke pro-Rizian sympathies in both Zeal and Pales. I would therefore suggest funding branches of the Ariana Taurus Association in both of those regions. What does ATA do? It's a government-funded organization that promotes Rizian culture abroad. It's currently active in Runeberg and a few other Grace members. Its satellites organize Rizian language classes, concerts, art exhibitions, traditional festivals. I myself volunteered with the ATA as an ambassador for a time. I can vouch for its integrity. How do you think it will be helpful in Zeal? If I may, Your Majesty, there are children Venus' age in Zeal who have spent their whole lives believing they're Wessex. He shuddered quietly. If the handover goes as planned, we will need to remind Zeal citizens of their true heritage. And if not, we'll need as many Rizian sympathizers on the inside as we can get. Why would there be a need for it in Pales? If you truly intend to reconcile with Pales, strengthening the pro-Rizian sympathies of the population is a good start. It's also a failsafe in case reconciliation doesn't work out. The more Pelasians like us, the less inclined they'll be to attack us. I can see the use for such a program, but wouldn't it be costly? Expanding ATA to both Zeal and Pales would indeed eat into our budget. I like the idea. It could even give us an edge in upcoming trade deals. But if you want to be frugal, I would choose between the two regions. Oh, okay. See, it was a good thing I turned around and did this. But again, I don't know if I can draw a negative. So, there's no need for frugality. Let's expand ATA into both Zeal and Pales. I heard a sharp intake of breath from Elena. Very well, Your Majesty. I'll allocate the funds. Good work today, everyone. I think it's time we adjourned. Excellent idea, Your Majesty. Thanks for listening, everyone. I do hope I haven't been too much of a bore. Not at all, Mr. Escobil. It's a privilege to share in your expertise. Anytime, Your Majesty. He rolled the map back up and collected his belongings. I walked out of the chambers, glad to be done for the day. Jesus, that is quite a long council meeting. I think that's probably one of the longest council meetings I've encountered in this game in general. But okay, so we do have quite a few things to consider going forward. We have royal decrees galore. Good God, it's so many royal decrees. It's stuff like this that kind of makes me like, that really appreciates the main game as it kind of, kind of dosed out the different builds and stuff you had, and you kind of talked about them a little bit more, or they were mentioned in different things and stuff like that. So it were kind of easily, moved along. Whereas in this case, there's just so much right off the bat. And it's kind of hard to put my mind around this because I don't know how these systems work for real. And I don't know the implications of what this means later on. So, it's a lot. It is a whole lot to consider right off the bat. But hopefully I can wrap my mind around on and see how it goes. Because I do know the main game got pretty hard since the amendment update. So we'll just keep on trucking forward. And if there's any advice that people have, please let me know, because this is a lot. This is a whole lot. I don't know what I really need to focus on. I really don't want to go towards a militaristic route, but it looks like I'm going to have to, because it seems like there's going to be some type of conflict. Again, in the main game, you were kind of able to avoid certain things, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to avoid military conflict completely, because I feel like even if you don't end up in a war somewhere far off or whatever, you're probably going to end up with some type of internal conflict because of whatever reason. But hopefully we can stoke those flames, or excuse me, not stoke the flames, but put those flames out before things kind of get out of hand. So if you like the video, like the video. If you would like to see more content like this, subscribe. I have a lot of things on the channel, and I will have many other things in the future. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to leave them in the comment section, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. So thank you very much for watching. The last video and the very first video got so many views, and I was actually very surprised. I didn't think it would get that many views in the first place, but it did, and I was very surprised, and I was very happy to see that everyone likes me revisiting this. And I may even consider doing the main game again too. It's been a long time since I played the main game, and I actually did record one episode of the original, well, the main game for the amendment update about a couple days before I actually came back. I actually was going to start with that, but then I felt like with the way the DLC was coming out, I wouldn't have had enough time to actually finish it. But yeah, maybe I will go ahead and revisit this, in the future. Let me know in the comment section. And if there's any other games, let me know in the comment section. So thank you for watching again. Thank you for everything. I'll see you in the next one. See ya.